guys, welcome back to Geometry. Last time we were together, we were talking about naming angles. This time we're going to talk about classifying angles by their measure. There's three basic angle classifications that we're going to use, and they're all centered around this very first one. This first one is a right angle. Now, a right angle measures exactly 90 degrees, not 91 degrees, not 89 degrees. It has to be exactly 90 degrees. We use this little square in the corner to indicate that it's a right angle. A lot of times in an angle, you'll see a little arc drawn. Okay, and we'll talk about what that arc means a little bit later. But for right now, just know that if you see the square in the center of that angle on that vertex, that means that you're dealing with a right angle. Now, the next two are acute angles and obtuse angles. And both of those are based on that right angle measuring 90 degrees. This angle is an acute angle. It measures less than 90 degrees. So anything less than 90 degrees is going to be an acute angle. Then we have an obtuse angle. Now, an obtuse angle measures greater than 90 degrees. So this third angle that we see would be greater than 90 degrees. Now, there's a catch, though. It must also be less than 180 degrees. Now, that's something that we'll talk about later on. That's what's called a reflex angle, and we'll come around to those later on. For right now, these are the three that we really need to focus on. The one more thing that we want to talk about here, I guess there is a fourth kind. One more that we want to talk about is if you have opposite rays. Now, in the last video, we briefly mentioned opposite rays. Opposite rays share a common endpoint and form a straight line. But they also form what's called a straight angle. So we could look at this line and treat A as a vertex and say that this is an angle. Now, a straight angle is going to measure 180 degrees. So the measure is exactly 180 degrees. Okay, and that's what a straight angle is. So if you see that that term used, you know that a straight angle measures exactly 180 degrees. Now, let's take a look at this example. Okay, I have this diagram, and the directions say classify each angle as right, acute, or obtuse. Now, there's a rule in geometry that you can't go by how a diagram looks. You have to go by how it's labeled. Now, I don't know if you have a protractor at home, so there's a little trick that we can use without a protractor. We can use a piece of paper to measure those angles, at least enough to determine if they are right, acute, or obtuse. So here's what we do. We take a piece of paper, okay? We use one of those factory corners, and we put that in the vertex of the angle. And that will help us tell whether it's exactly 90 degrees, whether it's less than 90 degrees, or greater than 90 degrees. So for this first example, they want us to measure angle TYV. So that's this one right here. So if I want to measure this angle, I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to place it so that the vertex or the corner of that paper is right in the vertex of the angle. And one of those sides is going to be perfectly along the side of the angle itself. Now, in this case, the edges of that paper line up perfectly with the sides of that angle. That would mean that this angle, TYV, is exactly 90 degrees. So if it's exactly 90 degrees, that means that it is a right angle. And trying to get stuff out of the way, there we go. Okay, so measure of angle TYV is a right angle. Okay, next up, they want us to look at measure of angle WYT. So angle WYT is this guy. Now we're going to use the exact same trick. We'll take the paper, we'll put the corner of that paper into the vertex of the angle, put one of those sides right along the edge of the paper. There we go. Get it lined up nice and neatly. Okay, and we can see this side of the angle lines up with the edge of the paper. This side of the angle is on the outside of that edge of the paper, which means that it's greater than 90 degrees. So we can say that angle WYT greater than 90 degrees is an obtuse angle. Okay, and then lastly, we want to look at angle TYU. And angle TYU is this guy. Oop, that's TYV. Where is, sorry, I got this in my way, can't see it. There we go. TYU will be this angle. So we're going to start the exact same way. We'll take our paper, we'll put the edge of that paper right on one of the sides of the angle, slide the corner of the paper right up to the vertex, and compare. Now this time, angle TYU is underneath the paper, meaning that it's less than that 90 degrees. So here, we can say that angle TYU is an acute angle. So the trick here, when we're going to classify these angles as right, acute, or obtuse, if we have a protractor on hand, we can measure the angles accurately. If we don't have a protractor on hand, we can at least use the corner of a piece of paper to determine if that angle is acute, obtuse, or a right angle. If it lines up perfectly with the edge corner of the paper, that's a right angle. If the angle is smaller than the corner of a paper, that means that it's an acute angle. And if the angle is greater than the corner of the paper, that means it's an obtuse angle. So we have acute, obtuse, and right. Make sure we're very comfortable with those words, guys. We're going to see them a lot this year. And keep this in mind. One little detail. If you have opposite rays, they're going to form a straight angle, which measures 180 degrees. All right, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you contact me and get those questions answered. I look forward to hearing from you.